So there are not too many different things when it comes to this monitor. I'm going to go over the couple of different changes. Obviously, the layout of it might be a little bit different because we have extra areas to put equipment. The one change that they did make was they made it easier for you to be able to change the paper because you can actually swing this out. As in before, we were kind of struggling because the paper was inside of the actual bag. Some of the main changes really come inside of here. Not so much with how we use the AED pads, but all revolved around this cord and this blue sensor. So basically what this is something that can actually attach to your BVM so that it gives the person a real-time look at the amount of volume they're actually pushing in that patient, and it helps make sure that you're ventilating at the appropriate rate. So taking a closer look at this, you basically will attach this onto your BVM, and then you're going to click this in. So I press down. Sorry, I put a little bit too much pressure. But you can see that this light turned blue. So that basically means that you have the correct connection. So then you're going to hook it into your BVM like this. And then you'll notice that as I start bagging, it'll pop up on the screen, basically showing me how much volume I'm giving. And then it has a little countdown so that you're able to ventilate about 10 breaths per minute. Now, the cool thing is before, with an adult BVM, if we squeeze the entire thing, then we'd be giving way too much volume. But since we switched to this pediatric BVM, it's going to take the entire bag for us to make sure that we're getting a tidal volume of between 400 to 500. There's a pressure gauge on here so you can tell the person ventilating to stay within the green. And then these BVMs also come with PEEP valves already attached. Minimum PEEP should always be set at 5, and then you can slowly titrate up as you need to improve oxygenation. So you don't always have to have your respiratory rate, set to 10. I believe that's where the monitor actually defaults. But if you can just highlight over it, and you can go up and down. So if you want the person ventilating to keep a respiratory rate of, let's say, 20 for some reason, then as they start bagging, they just have to follow the countdown. Green means that you're doing good. Yellow means you're doing bad. And one of the reasons why I'm in yellow right now is because I'm using an adult BVM. So if you had that person who was ventilating during your cardiac arrest or pre-oxygenating your patient prior to RSI, and they were squeezing that entire BVM the entire time, they were giving way too much volume, which was directly injuring the patient's lung, which is probably directly lowering your patient's blood pressure. So that's one of the reasons why we switched to a pediatric BVM. The next thing is that this monitor offers a TBI indicator. So basically how you get to that is home screen, and then as you just saw, I hit the back button a couple times where you see this head. It highlights the areas that we need to focus on to prevent secondary brain injury. So you can use this for your intubated traumatic brain injury patients, or you can use this for your patients that are a stroke patient that you believe could be a hemorrhagic stroke. So we know that the 3 H's are the things that we're trying to prevent, which is hypoxia, hypotension, and hyperventilation. So the areas that this monitor highlights is your blood pressure, your end tidal, and your SpO2. Now, Zoll spent a lot of money including this traumatic brain injury indicator onto these new Zoll monitors. And the reason why that is because through research, they found if you allow one of these things to occur at least one time, it doubles the mortality of that patient. So if you allow the patient's SpO2 to drop below 90 one time, you just double their mortality. If you allow their blood pressure to drop below a 90 systolic, you just double their mortality. Same thing comes with hyperventilation. So what we can do to avoid hypoxia is optimize PEEP and FiO2. Hypotension, if it's a trauma patient, it's resuscitating them with blood. If it's a medical patient, it's giving them fluid. Hyperventilation can occur, but it should only occur when the patient is herniating. Otherwise, you should keep your end tidal between 35 and 45. Now, if they're showing signs of herniation, which could be seizures, posturing, pupil that is fixed and dilated on one side, we do want to hyperventilate them, but not too much. We want to keep the end tidal between 30 and 35. Now, your vessels are very sensitive to CO2. So having a CO2 too high will cause vasodilation, which will increase the intracranial pressure inside of that patient's head. But also having an end tidal too low will cause vasoconstriction, which could lead to ischemia, which is why if they're herniating, we want to keep their end tidal on the lower side, but we don't want to hyperventilate too much because we don't want to cause ischemia to that brain.